What if I told you that everything you're trying to control, you can't, and everything you feel is out of your control isn't? Let's talk about a mind flip there. Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Wackett. Thanks for joining me for another video as we work to empower and equip you with the confidence and skills to write your own story so that you can live a life on purpose. Today we're going to talk about control and the love, hate, all or nothing approach that we seem to have with it. In this time of chaos and uncertainty, the longing for control and a sense of autonomy can consume us. The world seems to be slipping out from under us, and the inundation of fear, shame, and overwhelm is real. But the irony is, the more we try to control our lives, the less in control we feel. So where does that pressure to control come from? This has to do with an overvaluing of or fixation on a thought, feeling, or instance in our lives that creates a sense of tunnel vision. We become hyperfixated on one or a few points and details in our lives and become distracted from seeing the rest of the picture. In our focus, we try to perfect or control this piece of our story, which inherently makes it seem like it holds greater importance and leaves us with a sense of overwhelm when we come back to and try to absorb everything else that's occurring in our lives. It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole and only focusing on one hole, then getting overwhelmed with how many moles are popping up all around you when you step back and see the whole game. Only more anxiety-provoking, I suppose, because it's your life and not a game. So if we know it doesn't serve us, why do we do it? It's in our nature as humans to try and control the details of our story, to protect our place and connection in this world. And what's more, we have a false sense of responsibility and urgency created around various thoughts, feelings, and experiences that make it hard to be present within, rather than attempt to control them. We try to shut off specific thoughts or feelings, such as anger, sadness, or thoughts that are deemed as bad, too scary, or outside of our control, like death and endings. We become hyper-focused on anything that colludes with our shame brain. Someone might be upset with you. You're coming off weird or wrong, or you should be doing or being X. And we ruminate on ideas, feelings, and experiences that keep us stuck in what ultimately becomes a problem-saturated storyline in which we're the central concern. This weirdly connects to a part of our brain that assumes that if we're hypervigilant and constantly on the lookout to the threats facing our sense of worth and value in the world, we can either correct them before others notice or react when necessary to survive. But this only perpetuates the state of belief that we're constantly facing a threat of disconnection, or that we have to perform at a certain level to be good enough or worthy. And with our fear brain working like an overprotective parent, it can go haywire when left unchecked. Suddenly, we can find ourselves analyzing every detail of our day, assuming responsibility for things outside of our control or narrative, and creating new perceived threats based on the belief that it prepares us for possibilities. And the result is that we become completely depleted of our energy. It ultimately turns us into an overer. An over-analyzer, over-controller, over-responder, over-spender, over-perfecter, the list goes on. And this pattern of action leads us to get stuck in a chase and self-fulfilling prophecy to be enough, but to only feel as though we'll never be enough. So what do? We need to learn to tame that pull in our brain to over, and help our fear brain learn a greater degree of scrutiny in deciding what is and is not an active threat or imminent danger for us to focus on. So here are 3 things that you can do right now to help your brain. 1, do some investigative reporting on your shame experience. You'll find a link to a video I did that talks more deeply about shame, what it is, the impact it has on our lives, and how we can begin to dismantle it. Watch this video and begin to reflect on what rules and norms have been generated from your shame story that have given you a false sense of responsibility and control for things in your life that are anything but. 2, create a control wheel. I talked about this in a video I did a while back about how to respond to people when they make triggering comments about our appearance or the food we eat, and I'll be sure to add a link to that below for you. The idea, though, is to draw a circle and put everything you can control inside that circle and everything that you can't outside of the circle. It seems rudimentary, but the idea is that it gives a visual barrier to your brain about what is and is not worth expending energy on, or is not yours to take on. For example, you can't control the pandemic, but you can control how you respond to the circumstances in front of you and how you want to respond. You can't control the things other people say, but you can tell them how it makes you feel, or be there for others when they're negatively affected by it. You can also acknowledge that you'll likely be on the end of hurting someone else at some point. Intentionally or not, it makes space for others to share that feedback with you. And 3, learn to let go of the thoughts that are keeping you stuck in that game of whack-a-mole. Practice a technique called cognitive diffusion, whereby you learn to see your thoughts and feelings for what they are. Experience them in waves and don't allow yourself to get hyper-focused on them or stuck in that problem-saturated storyline. I'm going to include a link to a video I did on this technique in the show notes that walks you through each step of the process in its entirety and talks a bit more about why this technique is helpful. And now I'm curious, and I would love to hear from all of you. What do you do to help you get out of that state of hyperfixation or that pressure to have everything under control? How do you expand the scope out and not get fixated on one mole? I want to hear your insights, ahas, and questions that you have so that we can continue that conversation in the comments and with each other to build community and support in this process. Now, remember to take a look at the show notes to get links to some of the techniques and videos that I mentioned, as well as some other resources that I curated to help you go deeper on this topic. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to save yourself the time and energy of checking back for new content, and instead you just get an alert whenever there's new awesomeness to check out. And if you love everything that I'm doing or want to stay in the know on all the happenings of Adversity Rising, click the link in the show notes to sign up for my email list, where you get access to exclusive content and specials that I don't share anywhere else. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And remember, you have the right to author your own story. Not your shame, not anybody else. So let's do the work. Let's take that pen back and start writing the story to live the life that we want to live. See you next time.